Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park governing body for March 30th, 2021. Per the General Assembly's approval of the governor's amendments to the biennial budget, the governing body may now meet electronically without a quorum actually assembled in a single location and without the in-person governing body members voting on the participation of those who are remoting in. The following benchmarks for the meeting this evening have been met. First, the governor has declared a state of emergency for the current COVID-19 pandemic in accordance with Code of Virginia. Second, the declared emergency makes it impractical or potentially unsafe for the governing body to assemble in a single location, and guidance from state and federal governments support this determination. Therefore, the governing body will be meeting with various members participating electronically through GoToMeeting. Third, the meeting is to discuss or transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the governing body. Fourth, the governing body will make available a recording or transcript of the meeting on its website in accordance with Code of Virginia. Fifth, notice has been and will continue to be provided to the public using available methods. Lastly, we have made and will continue to make arrangements for public access through electronic means, including the ability to comment. Those participating electronically are Councilmember Laura Hampton, Councilmember Hasib Javed, Councilmember Darrell Moore, and Vice Mayor Banks. Those participating in person are Councilmember Yessi Amaya, Councilmember Alana Mensing, and Mayor Jeanette Rischel. Okay, first we have approval of the agenda. We are going to strike item 9A from the agenda. The federal government has not yet provided sufficient information or guidance to the localities. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Did I say 9E? I thought I said
9A. Maybe I was wrong.
I'm sorry, I thought I said 9E, but and for clarification, it's item 9E, E as in Edward. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay. We do have a closed session. City Attorney, would you read the citation?
It would be paragraph 7 of subsection 2.2-3711A, litigation.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstained, motion carries. We have an agenda. Thank you. Is there, let's see, next we have moment of silence. Please join us in a moment of silence. And Councilmember Amaya, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone signed up to make public comment, or have we received any comments via email or text or phone call? Seeing none and hearing none, we'll move on to recognition. We have a resolution recognizing Department of Parks and Recreation employee Tony Thomas for his outstanding service to the city. Whereas the governing body of the City of Manassas Park are extremely grateful for the service provided to our community by all of our employees. And whereas the governing body desires to recognize outstanding performance of our employees as they accomplish important projects, innovate solutions, and/or are recognized by residents and/or partners in our community and region for their outstanding work. And whereas Tony Thomas began work for the Department of Parks and Recreation in 2002 as part-time extended care aide, earned a full-time position as a recreation specialist in 2009 after graduating from college, and was then promoted to recreation services supervisor in 2011. And whereas Tony managed the department's Recreation Services Division, one of the department's largest divisions, responsible for producing over 1,000 programs, classes, and events annually. And whereas Tony provided fair, judicious, and equitable direction and guidance to a large and diverse team of industry professionals, consisting of 4 full-time staff, 5 permanent part-time staff, and 10 to 12 instructors. And whereas Tony made a significant and long-lasting impact shaping, growing, and cultivating the department's teen program, serving as a mentor to both teen members and teen staff alike, and playing a pivotal role in the successful implementation and execution of meaningful programs such as Leaders in Training, Badges for Baseball, Summer Team Quest, Camp 4 Alarm, and Camp Road Dogs. And whereas Tony provided guidance and support to the department's special events assistant, ensuring the successful planning, preparation, and implementation of a year-round event schedule including Trunk or Treat, Fall Family Fun Night, Fall Festival, Kite Festival, July 4th, Glow in the Park, Christmas tree lighting, and the City Light Parade. And whereas Tony helped to alleviate barriers and generate greater access and opportunity for adults with developmental disabilities in the local community through his oversight of the department's Buddy Club and Take One drama programs. And whereas Tony represented the Department of Parks and Recreation on a number of boards, committees, and partnerships through the years, including the Family Assessment Planning Team, Gang Response Intervention Team, Child Protection Partnership, and the Prevention Alliance. And whereas Tony routinely displayed a customer-first mindset, keen attention to detail, tireless work ethic, flexible and accommodating schedule, shrewd and tactical approach to problem solving, and overall willingness to adjust and adapt based on the changing needs and demands of the organization. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the governing body hereby recognize the great service and accomplishments of Tony Thomas of Parks and Recreation, Department of Manassas Park. Be it further resolved that Tony Thomas is awarded with a Performance Spotlight Award certificate for his outstanding service by the governing body and signed by both the mayor and the city manager of Manassas Park. So the motion is that the governing body formally recognize Tony Thomas for his extensive efforts and outstanding service to the department, to the city, and to the entire Manassas Park community by adopting the attached resolution. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Okay. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you very much. We would love to hear from both of you, both Jay and Tony, if you would come to the microphone.
I'll go first. Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. I wasn't fortunate enough to work with Tony when he first started with the department over a decade ago, but it has been a real pleasure getting to know him and working alongside him for the last 11 years. Tony's a consummate team player. He's a model consistency, and he's worn many hats and done very well in that, and wearing those hats. Seems to be very steady, always approaches every task, every challenge with the same level of steadiness and kind of resolve and collectedness. And I think that's inspired those who've worked with him and under his direction to kind of work, follow kind of that same set of kind of standard. So we certainly wish Tony and his family nothing but the best, and we'll be sad to see him go, but we're very happy for him, and I know he'll be very successful in his future endeavors. So
Yeah, thank you, Jay. We're going to miss, the whole city will miss Tony.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor
Thank
and
you.
Council. I appreciate it. I'm very honored to be here and to receive the Spotlight Award. It's been a great journey here at Manassas Park. My family lives in Manassas Park. I love the city. I appreciate the support that each of you have given, not just Parks and Rec, but myself over the years. I'm gonna miss it. You know, this is home, and just really appreciative for everything. So, so thank you all again.
Okay, thank you. Alana would like to say a few words.
I was so sad to read the agenda and see that you're leaving. I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done for me personally. Teaching piano was a pleasure, and it was such a rewarding experience. So thank you so much for hiring me, and best of luck.
I had the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck in the future. Okay, moving on to number 5, information, city manager.
Thank you. And Tony, we are going to miss you greatly. I don't know how we're going to do the events, all these events and everything we have without you, but you were a great leader and we will miss you, but we wish you and your family happiness and success in the future. So thank you for everything. So I'll be turning it over to Chris here as a presenter, but this agenda item came as a result of an inquiry and I guess confusion about what the billing structure was for utility bills, the different components, why those components exist. So we're just going to give a quick kind of overview of that, and the goal is to, as part of the new, more robust website, we just want to provide better information for the community so it's easy for them to search these kinds of questions and get answers quicker. So let me make Chris the presenter here. Chris worked with Calvin and his team to get kind of some background information to present to you all. All right, so Chris, you should have it now. Chris, you got to unmute.
Yep, I do. I have it up. I was just making sure everything goes on good. Can you see the screen well and can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. As Laszlo said, this is a report kind of to our citizens as an informational item. It's only about 4 or 5 slides, and the goal would be to just run through it and then open it up to any kind of follow-up questions or inputs, and have Calvin on hand as well for any other further context that you would have about this. So I figured it would be beneficial to start with just kind of a quick history. It is a long history, so to incorporate it onto one slide was a bit of a challenge, but I figured that these bullet points would really capture the constraint of our water and sewer capacity agreement history in the city. So it really is upstream and downstream for us when we think in terms of how we are capacitized in our water enterprise and sewer enterprise ability to service our citizens. Up until 2008, we did have an operational well within city limits that was forced to be capped due to bacteriological issues. So that really pushed the city into a position where we needed to purchase our water from upstream sources. And with those agreements with Manassas City and Prince William County, that kind of led to the ability to not only have to purchase the water, but also, actually also purchase the ability to treat, distribute, and fund facility improvement costs to those upstream abilities. So the capacity agreement kind of covers 2 types of costs for both Manassas City and Prince William County, who also gets their purchases from Fairfax County. So it is a very layered agreement. In terms of our wastewater and sewer capacity, we did have a regional wastewater treatment facility. I think it was up until about in the 1970s within our city limits. But during that time, there were some environmental, essentially investigations that determined that a lot of these kind of regional treatment facilities impacted the Occoquan Reservoir, which ultimately led to the formation of USA, Upper Occoquan Service Authority, of which we are now a percentage share party in that multi-jurisdictional agreement for our sewer treatment needs. So we are a 5% share, and that 5% covers operations, maintenance, reserve maintenance charges, and other associated costs. Also important to note that those increases to UOSA capacity can be deemed mandatory or voluntary. So there is some need to caution and plan for that incurred part of our expense. So we truly are an upstream and downstream consumer within our own water sewer enterprise. So to summarize, kind of a long story, to shorten it up into one sentence, the city is heavily constrained by its separate agreements that impact the rates and fees in order to operate and sustain our utility enterprise. So if you think about it on an annual basis, we have to budget for our own operations, our own capital improvements, the purchase of our water, the ability to purchase our water, the treatment of our water, and the ability to treat our water. So that essentially makes us a middleman organization, and will be constrained in the ability to decrease costs to citizens with this type of capacity constraint that we have on both sides, kind of like a bookend type model, if you can think about it. So just to kind of give a 1 year glimpse into what the line item breakdown of our water sewer budgeting enterprise looks, not to go line by line here, but as you can see in the highlighted sections, I believe that's about 6.2 million goes into the annual purchase of our water. And there we go. Out of the 7.8 million we have in revenues goes to debt, water purchase, and UOSA. So you can think about it in terms of total cost per year, it's about 14 million. Those highlighted sections, represent roughly about 43% of annual annual costs. So it is a significant portion of our annual expenditures that go towards funding the sustainability of our water sewer enterprise. So in terms of billing, these are some of the consumption rates that we have charted on our website. So on average, per 1,000 gallons, and this is all residential, doesn't factor in commercial, but since the response was from a resident, I figured it would be more beneficial to look at the residential impact. But these are kind of the base rates, as well as you can see in the red section here, that service fee. So that's what can factor when you add it up to include refuse and recycling, which is a flat fee. So if you are a curbside pickup on your monthly residential bill, and you are around that average of 3,000 gallons per month, the average bill is roughly about $97.85 here in the city. So to conclude, kind of why do we have that base service fee of $46? Not to continue the same sentiment that we've talked about before, but it's to fund those debt service capacity agreements mostly. So when you think about it, we bill out 4,900 utility accounts on a monthly basis, and that equates to about 2.7 million annually in base service fee revenue, which is then utilized to fund the 3.2 million, as you can see from that previous item, annual capacity agreement. So even then, the $40 annually still leaves about a $500,000 gap for funding those debt payments. And of course, those agreements are all codified by city code and legal agreements. So if you think about it, the remaining 5.3 million that we get in our water billing revenue. So you said that the 2.7 and the 5.3 equates to that 7.8 on the previous slide in total revenue. That's what's stratified out to support our operating and capital fund expenditures, and everything is connected to the operation and ongoing improvement to the city's water and sewer infrastructure. So we make it a self-sustainable system by making sure that we're supporting total operational inputs for our water sewer enterprise. So you can see going forward, the option to lower the base service fee, reduce the capacity agreement debt payments, specifically to UOSA. And we can go into that in detail after the presentation. I think this is the last slide. And from the city manager, just wanted to remind that this is an enterprise fund. It's not subsidized by other funds. To treat it as a separate utility entity, such as like we have with NOVIC and Columbia Gas. And the only difference is that it's managed by a local government instead of the private sector. So it's just one where it makes selling the system legally challenging and currently not feasible given our current city financial constraints. So I will go ahead and open it up to members of the governing body for follow-up inputs or questions. And as I said, I have Calvin, myself, and of course, city manager on hand to answer any questions, and Dee possibly if you have any legal ones as well.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks for being here, Calvin. Councilmember Amaya, do you want to start?
No questions at
No
this time.
questions?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Mensing?
No question.
Okay. Councilmember Hampton, questions, comments?
She was shaking her head no.
I'm sorry.
She was shaking her head no.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Javed?
Yeah, I mean, I have no question.
Okay, thank you.
Besides would this information be, I guess, on the web
Yeah, we
for the public?
we can post it on the website as well.
Or how you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can post it on the website, and I add that note about FY 29 and 30. You'll see that in my budget presentation next week. UOSA debt does drop kind of in 2 steps in those 2 years. That's probably represents the best opportunity to reduce that base fee. But again, right now, that base fee doesn't even cover the existing debt, so I'm not sure how much that's going to help at that point. But that's our best next chance, assuming we don't have any other additional water purchase capacity issues or anything else until that time. But yeah, we can post this on the website.
The objective was to get it widest possible dispersion because folks ask questions, so social media, whatever. Do you have a follow-up, Councilmember Javed? I guess not. Okay. Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, I appreciate the presentation. It was a great explanation. But to take Councilmember Javed's point even further, is it possible that we could include a one-page summary of this write-up in the water and sewer bill?
You're saying in each bill or just like a one-time kind of reminder? Or do you want us to just provide like a sentence explanation of that base fee for each bill?
Yeah, just it'd be a one-time mailing to just educate people about that fee and a little background like was in the presentation tonight. Maybe not as wordy, but I think as the mayor has pointed out, it's a matter of getting this out as widely as possible. We do seem to be getting a lot of questions on social media and other places. I believe there's even a survey being started on change.org about our fees.
Yes.
So this will just educate the public in a more maybe effective way. We can send it out in the bill.
Yes, it was the change.org petition that really was the impetus for this presentation. Right. Okay.
My fear is not too many people are watching this tonight and don't necessarily go to our website.
Yeah.
These kinds of things.
I think Facebook's probably the best option because
social media is.
Because when we attach it to the bills, we're not sure how many people actually will read that versus just throwing it away.
And we can always share it and get it out on our personal networks as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we can do it on social media. That would be at least a step up. So yeah, sure. That'd be great. We'd all share it.
Yeah. Do you have a follow-up, Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
Hey, thank you, Chris, for the presentation. I agree with Councilmember Moore's and Javed's suggestion to inform the residents about this and use social media.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. In that case, I think we're done with that information. Next would be decals.
So Chris, can you stop sharing your screen? Maybe I'll get back. How do I do that?
I'm giving it back to the.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, for the decals tonight, the mayor just asked me to just, I guess, do a public service announcement. Give me 1 second here.
And also to get it out on social media as much as we
Correct.
possibly
Yeah,
can. Yeah.
Let's call it like this. Okay. Are you all able to see each other again? I'm not sure if this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, there's something going on here on the screen. So just wanted to remind residents that the decal sticker, it's a new sticker each year that has a different color. We had questions about that. The city historically had a permanent decal to show that they successfully registered. proof that they registered their vehicle with the Commissioner of Revenue properly, and that's great. But the reason why we went with the annual changing colors, like some of the other cities in Northern Virginia, was to be able to ensure that each year people were compliant with paying their personal property tax and their vehicle license fee to get that sticker. So each year the sticker is a different color. This year it is green. So if you don't have the green decal, you will be ticketed for not updating your decal. So please, if you paid your personal property tax, you should have received the decal in the mail. Please get with the treasurer if you have not received your decal sticker this year, and we'll send out a reminder as well on social media just to let the public know.
Thank you. I requested the public service announcement because I had a number of questions from residents who did not realize that the sticker changed colors, and even though it came in the mail, they didn't think they had to put it on because it was the same color. They just didn't pay close attention to that, but thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the minutes of March 9th and March 16th. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. There is no unfinished business, so we're moving on to new business. The first is fourth quarter FY21 budget appropriations for both city and schools.
Good evening again, members of the governing body. So I believe this is going to be the first appropriations for many of the new governing body members, but I just want to quickly describe kind of the process of appropriations. So in government, you have different ways that the governing body essentially can have control over expenditures and revenues. The first, of course, is budgeting, which is more of a planning strategy of what we plan on spending and tracking how we're spending during the year as well. The second step is appropriating. So once you plan that, you approve your budget, that sets kind of your ceiling for what the organization is able to spend before having to get a budget amendment if we're going to go over that threshold. Appropriations is the next step. That's essentially the governing body saying you can spend this amount of money now in a year or half a year, or in our case, we do it by quarter. So this quarter, you can spend X amount for your operations, for your capital, for debt, and for the different components of the city as well. So that's the second step. And then you have contracts as well for high value items that are above a certain procurement threshold. Those come back to the governing body as well for final approval. So you'll see that on April 6th, we're going to talk about the ambulance purchase. That was already approved in the budget. Then it was appropriated funding to be able to go out and acquire it. But then we're also bringing the final contract for you all to approve. So again, these are just multiple steps so that the governing body has full oversight over the entire process of spending taxpayer dollars. And it's just not local city taxpayer dollars, it's also state and federal revenues. So the city gets a lot of our money from the state and from the federal side as well. But just because we receive that money, like when we received CARES Act money last summer, doesn't mean I can just take that and the department say, oh, let's just spend this. We have to come back to the governing body, we have to get approval to include that funding into our budget, or if it's an annual reoccurring state or federal source, we always include that in our budget as a revenue source, as a total budget. We get budget approval to plan to spend that money, and then we get appropriations approval to actually spend the money. And then if there are big contract items, we have to bring that back to you all for approval to enter into that contract as well. So that's kind of the process, and what you have in your agenda tonight is quarter 4. So the governing body has already appropriated quarters 1, 2, and 3 of fiscal year 21, and now we're asking for the remaining appropriation, which is quarter 4 of the current budget. And the current budget was the budget amendment that was voted on back in December, which did adjust the city budget to incorporate the CARES Act Round 2 money, along with some additional components, additional funding as well. We did amend the school budget then as well to incorporate the project, the middle school chiller. So that was added at that time as well. And so tonight's appropriations are just based off of that budget in December. And you can see from the city standpoint, we try to equalize our appropriations for enterprise funds and for operations. For capital, we usually try to front load that in the summer summer months is kind of Q1 is like when we like to upfront a lot of appropriations, because that's really when we do a lot of our capital expenditures when the weather is cooperative. Our debt appropriations, usually our finance director is the one who provides us a schedule of when we make our debt payments. So she provides the appropriations request schedule for the debt, and then we receive the school's appropriations request via the school board, who usually votes on it a meeting or so before we bring the request to the governing body, and the school board chair usually sends an official letter to the mayor making the request, and then the staff will analyze that appropriations request, make sure it's in line with the budget that you all voted for. So that's what's being requested tonight, is based off that budget. In April, the schools will be presenting a budget amendment to incorporate some of the CARES Act money that they've received. If that is approved by the governing body, then again, an appropriations adjustment will also have to be made to incorporate that. So I just wanted to provide some background for the governing body on kind of the budgeting and appropriations process, and see if there's any questions for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Hampton, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Javed, questions?
Yeah, I got one question. Does the CARES Act money come directly to the city, or is it going to the schools?
So that's like it going to the schools, but I don't know what the process is. I mean, it's going to be deposited into our bank account, just like all state and federal money. The treasurer is the legal custodian of all funds, whether they're local tax dollars or federal or state sources of revenue. They get deposited into our bank account, and the state sends that to the treasurer. So the treasurer is the owner of that fund. Then they transfer that to the school's bank account. I'm not sure what the mechanism for the schools, because you're right that during the CARES Act and now with the ARPA funds that we'll hope to see here in the next couple of months, they have kind of different methods. So the CARES Act was given to the state from the federal government, and the state gave it to us. I'm not sure what mechanism, because there were separate funds specifically for schools for CARES Act, and the same thing is going to be true for the ARPA funds as well. But I don't know what route they go through. I would certainly ask the schools when they're here next week to review all the budget.
Do you know if they'll be briefing specifically on that?
Yes, because that's what makes up their budget.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a follow-up, Councilmember Javed?
Yeah, no follow-up.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Moore?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
No questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Mensing?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Amaya?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have two staff recommendations. There will be two motions. The first one is that the governing body appropriate $15,289,725 to the city, including $292,473 for Bull Run ASAP for fourth quarter of fiscal year 2021. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. The second staff recommendation is that the governing body appropriate $11,225,325 to city schools for fourth quarter of fiscal year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the next one, which is paving agreement with Julius Branscombe Incorporated. And Calvin's up.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, citizens, staff. Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development for the City of Manassas Park. Before you tonight is an item to enter into a staff recommendation to enter into an agreement with Branscombe Paving for what we would consider on-call paving services. We have traditionally ridden Manassas' contract for this. They're a larger jurisdiction. they tend to get more competitive bids than we would with our small amount of annual paving that we do. It also means that whatever contractor they have is usually staged right next door. So we can act just simply as an extension of a contract, which benefits the contractor and benefits the city. So Manassas rebid their contract this year. Branscombe Paving won that award. So what we're attempting to do is essentially ride that contract, enter into our own agreement with Branscombe Paving. Would be for an initial 1-year term, within 4 years after that to continue the contract in so much as they still have an agreement with Manassas.
Right, yeah, so we'll have up to 4, but the last one will be cut short by about a month.
Right. Is there any questions on the agreement?
Okay. Councilmember Amaya?
No questions.
Councilmember Mensing? Councilmember Hampton? Questions, comments? Okay. Councilmember Javed? Comments or questions?
No questions, but I thought we were already under contract with them. Did we do this last year?
We did, that contract's expiring. I believe we did an extension of the previous one just to kind of get us through a little bit of a period, I think.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Moore?
No question.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
Hey, Calvin, does this include like a schedule or a plan to pave the roads and repair the potholes or cracks, like the alligator cracks?
This is simply just an on-call agreement to have a contractor ready to serve them with task orders. So this simply is the master agreement that provides the on-call service. The paving operations themselves are divvied out and approved task orders from the governing body.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Staff recommendation is that the governing body approve the award of the paving services contract to Julius Branscombe Incorporated and direct the city manager to sign the agreement with Julius Branscombe Incorporated, subject to final review by city attorney.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. And Calvin, I think you're still up. Task order number
Here to
1.
answer Councilman Banks' last question. Before you tonight is task order number 1 under that agreement that we just approved. And that will actually cover paving scope. Unfortunately, VDOT, as I had a chance to discuss with the new council members when we were giving the briefing, VDOT comes out every year and inspects for the urban maintenance program. They often pinpoint things that need to be repaired. Sometimes they're paving, sometimes they're guardrail. This past fall, when they inspected, they pointed out a section of Manassas Drive between Andrew Drive and Digital Drive, said this needs to be repaired. So we probably would have moved forward with a couple more smaller streets from our actual windshield survey and our actual schedule, but we can't jeopardize the $753,000 in urban maintenance funds we get every year. So to keep VDOT happy, a large portion of this specific task order is going towards that section. We will still have some money left on the table to revisit our own windshield survey. The other section that is in this task order is Scott Drive. It's becoming rather infamous. We just resurfaced that section 5-6 years ago. It's already deteriorated to the point that we're getting numerous complaints. We've talked about this in the comp plan discussion with the transportation chapter. I'm sure everybody knows Scott Drive is the cut through to Old Centerville Road, the way to get around Route 28, so it gets an incredible amount of traffic that it was not built for. But unfortunately, it's very highly deteriorated right now and needs to be resurfaced. So the cost of resurfacing the section of Scott Drive is, I want to have my cheat sheet here, is only, I think it was 36, is that correct? 31,000 or,
Let me pull it up. Give me a second.
Yes, 366950. The section of Manassas Drive that VDOT has put on our inspection report as estimated at 119,534. That totals up only to 156,204. But Branscombe, the contract works in weights and unit quantities. They do a best estimate, give us an estimate, but oftentimes they will come in lower than estimate. Sometimes they'll come in higher than estimate. In order to protect ourselves and be able to make prompt payment, we recommend a 20% contingency. That brings the total that we're asking for permission from the governing body to limit this task order at to 187,444.80.
Okay. Okay. Questions? Councilmember Hampton? Okay. Councilmember Javed?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Moore?
Chris, when will that leave? What will be the balance left in the paving budget if we allocate these funds tonight?
So of the actual street improvements and resealing, you'll have around $70,000 left. There's another line item that we've historically been able to utilize for additional paving if we don't use it for concrete work. That would be additional streets projects in the capital budget. You'll have a remainder of $164,514 between those two line items. However, we do try to target concrete repairs. I'm sure people are familiar with some of the failing sidewalk sections around the city, so we'll be looking at some of those sections to see if we can get a concrete contract out. And then if there's any remaining money after that, we'll focus on more paving to eat up that money this fiscal year.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Do you have a follow-up, Councilmember Moore?
No, that was it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
No questions. Thanks, Calvin.
Thank you. Councilmember Mensing?
No questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Amaya?
No questions.
Thank you. Okay, staff recommendation is that the governing body approve task order number 1 to Branscombe in an amount not to exceed $156,204, along with a contingency of $31,240.80 for a total not to exceed $187,444.80, and direct the city manager to sign task order number 1, subject to final review by city attorney.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, Calvin.
Oh, he's sticking around for closed. He's sticking around.
Oh, you're sticking around. Okay, that's good. Okay, 9D, community project funding request.
Good evening, members of the governing body. Tonight I bring forward a request of support, what's called community support for project applications. The U.S. Congress over the last couple of months, as part of working on their whole ARPA funding for COVID-19, we're also changing kind of the rules for what used to be called earmarks, to bring those back to help with negotiations and to provide direct funding to local communities. Congresswoman Wexton has made that available to our community through a specific application process. They utilize guidelines for existing grants programs from the federal government to kind of understand what projects would qualify for this funding, and there's an online application process. So Merchant McIntyre, our grants contractor, they let us know about this. They walked us through the process. They worked with us to decide the criteria, and then when we looked at the criteria, we came to the conclusion that we have a very short timeline, so that we have to submit these applications by April 2nd. We submitted it yesterday, but we had a very short timeline. The project that was ready to go now for funding and that provided tremendous community value was the public building security project that we briefed the Planning Commission on in February as part of the CIP, and then we were getting ready to brief you all as well. So Merchant McIntyre had some meetings with Chief Lugo and Deputy Chief Reinhardt to go over the project, and it was Merchant McIntyre who helped fill out the questionnaire and submitted it on our behalf. The next step for that process is to get what's called community support letters, which is from our elected governing body resolution that you have tonight, and then from the mayor, a letter of support, and then any additional, which the mayor is going to help out with for any additional letters of support from our representatives. All of that will then go to Congresswoman Wexton, and then as part of the congressional deliberations over the next year, we hope that this project will be funded to help us out with it. You can see I attached the slide that we briefed the Planning Commission in February describing the project. The amount has gone up, so we've been working on it. We started really looking at this heavily with the new City Hall planning, because as we know, when we move over to City Hall, we're gonna have to have card readers like we have in this building at a minimum, but we'd also like to have security cameras. We've been putting some ballistic glass as well. We want to have things like panic buttons, security alarms for the treasurer, for the safe, an actual PA system to notify people of issues. And more importantly, the security cameras, we want them to be IP connected to the police station and the police department, so that if there is an active shooter, they will have connectivity to those cameras and see exactly where the shooter is, so to quickly intervene to protect our residents. So the police have been working very closely with the schools over the last few years to make sure that we have the best system in our schools as a priority to take care of our children and our teachers. But the community center is also the next logical step for that kind of security. As a City Hall, there's a lot of public that will come to both facilities, and as we know now with active shooter events, it's a real threat. We saw in Virginia Beach as well, where the shooting occurred in their actual City Hall. So we want to take all measures that are possible to keep everyone safe, and this is kind of the first important step towards doing that. The fire station, if you notice, they don't even have card reader access at all. They don't have any security cameras. They go out on calls, and there's a lot of equipment there. So we really want to provide as much security as possible. The police station, some of the systems are old as well, they're failing. So we really need to get this project going, but as you can see with the price tag, it's a pretty big project. And we're not a wealthy community here. We're still struggling, and we're just getting out of the financial impact. We're still seeing the financial impacts from COVID. So this is an important project that we hope to get some federal support for over the next year. FY22 is the goal, is to when we get this funding. So that's why we're here tonight, to make a request to approve or provide your support for the project through the passage of this resolution.
Mm-hmm. What is the turn time for the letters? What's the drop dead date for everything to be in?
There is none right now, but they would say, like we put in our questionnaire, that we'll have the letters posted on the link that we provide to them within the next couple of weeks from submission.
Okay.
So we really have the next 2 weeks, but it doesn't mean we can stop. We have to stop there. We can keep adding additional letters of support and potentially even engage directly with Congresswoman Wexton as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Questions, Councilmember Hampton. Okay. Councilmember Javed.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the scope of this project? Like, what can it be utilized for? Like, is there a full authority to use it any way we can?
No, we lay out specifically in the questionnaire by building. So what the budget is for each building and what the different components would be as well. We don't have, you guys, again, like discussed earlier in the whole budget appropriations and contract process, we're in the budget process right now. We just briefed the Planning Commission, the CIP. We haven't even briefed the governing body on this project yet. So you're gonna get a lot more kind of cracks at this specific project as well, because there's no contract, there's no budget for it yet. So that's what we're gonna be discussing over the next few months. But specifically as part of the questionnaire, we did our best based off of the data we have right now to outline for each building what our plan is. We have more, we have a very good plan for each building in terms of all the access card readers, the locations of security cameras, IP security cameras, the panic buttons, the PA system. We have all those stuff laid out to make up this application. So if we get this money, we really have to spend it on those things. I think it would be illegal for us to accept the money and then end up spending it on other sources. So we would spend it directly on this project, and there may have to be a match component as well for it. But again, right now, we would be stuck with funding this project ourselves with limited resources. So the hope is we can get any kind of money to help us do this over the next year or so.
Well, what is the application process like? They are going to review it and see if this is appropriate for this fund?
Yeah, again, this is Congress acting, so I'm not sure what their full process would be. I think it's based off the Congress member to decide kind of which projects they want to support, and then as part of ongoing deliberations over bills being discussed in Congress, historically what these have been utilized for is kind of building coalition of support and getting projects that benefit districts of the congressional person to kind of get their support for legislation. So I don't know how it's going to play out, again, because it hasn't been done for over 10 years now. I don't know if they're going to follow kind of the same process as before, but right now all they've asked us to do is submit projects that are important for the community, for them to have kind of in their hip pocket to do their own internal evaluation for each congressperson in the city, which projects they want to support, and then as part of the congressional process for getting these community projects funded, that's when they would decide, but I'm not entirely certain the full process behind it, just what they've outlined so far in terms of submitting projects.
So we'll know more going forward.
Yeah, is there a question? Sorry.
Did you have a follow-up, Hasib? Didn't quite hear you.
Yeah, I was just saying that like a community project to me, sounds like something that's community facing, that has direct impact for our residents. Especially if this is in a review process. This seems like something like this is a good initiative, but how will it benefit the community besides security, I guess, besides equipping our facilities with this security equipment?
Yeah, so there's kind of two parts to that question. So the criteria, remember they provided us a lot of criteria, so that was our first step. We had to read all the different grants that they were using as models for acceptable projects, and there was a Department of Justice grant that did outline this kind of technology. So this fit the criteria of what the types of projects they were looking for. And kind of the second part, it's safety of our community, right? We have a lot of our residents who come to these buildings, they're going to be targets for these kinds of activities, threats from active shooters and criminal elements at City Hall, at the community center. We have a lot of children at the community center. We have a lot of seniors, teens, people with disabilities that are coming for services at the community center now. Healthcare is part of a big part of what we're doing at the community center. We need to protect them, right? So it's providing safety to our community. So I do see this as a very important community project because it's enabling a more safe space for our residents to receive the services that they're looking for at the different facilities, including even the police station as well and at the fire department.
I have no follow-up at this time. Thank you. Thank you, Liza.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Leslie, I understand that the process is kind of unclear, but do we have an idea when a decision will be made whether or not our project has been selected to go forward?
I don't. I think that the game plan is now when we submit this, and if we get the resolutions, letter of support is kind of the next step. And then after that, probably facilitating a meeting with Congresswoman Wexton and the mayor to discuss the project and maybe get, Congresswoman's staff figure out exactly what the process is after that. But right now we're focused on, first was getting the application submitted before April 2nd, and then getting the letters of support, uploading that, and then scheduling any follow-up. But it is an FY22 project request, so the hope is that sometime in FY22 we'll receive notice if our project was approved and we actually get funding. But remember, all the jurisdictions are going to be submitting their project requests as well, and they may be submitting multiple projects. They have a much bigger staff that can probably turn around a lot more projects. So, but ultimately, I believe it's Congresswoman Wexton's discretion in terms of what is her priority project.
Thank you.
Do you have a follow-up? Councilmember Moore?
No follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Mensing?
No questions.
Councilmember Amaya?
Oh, so we're going to, the governing body have to write a letter supporting the project, or just the mayor?
Well, you have a resolution. That's the action the governing body is taking. And then, yes, the mayor, what other letters of support we're looking for will help draft those letters. But yeah, the mayor would actually be setting an individual letter of support as well.
Okay.
But you all will be essentially showing your support with adoption of this resolution.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Staff recommendation is that the governing body adopt the attached resolution in support of the city's application for community project funding for public building security technology.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have a manager's report? 9E has been struck, so we move on to manager's report.
Just a reminder that next Tuesday I'll be briefing the FY22 budget. And just, you've seen it via email, but also the assessors are starting to send out letters to our public as well. Our assessment values did increase, just like the surrounding jurisdictions as well. That's helped us offset some of the losses in meals tax and parks and rec revenue from COVID, but our budget's looking much better. So I just wanted to give you that heads up that will happen on Tuesday, but things are really looking better from a financial position.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do have a closed session, so City Attorney, do you want to tee us up for that?
Yes, ma'am. I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting, consult with the city attorney, and receive briefings by staff members pertaining to litigation against Novak relating to the Connor Drive Road Improvement Plan, pursuant to paragraph 7 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Has everyone spoken? Are there any more ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, abstained. We'll go into closed session and we will take a break.
15-minute break, because they...
Okay, 15-minute break.